At 5:42 a.m., the simulation lab held its breath. Fluorescent lights hummed. Stainless trays wore a thin skin of condensation. Dr. Maya Reyes stood at the sink and scrubbed with the angle of someone who had learned to waste nothing, elbows cocked fingertips to forearm in a strict sequence. Warm water ran over dry desert skin. A green paracord bracelet tapped the steel basin, a small metronome. She moved to the practice station and closed a mock sternotomy with interrupted mattress sutures. 12 stitches each, the same width from the edge, the same bite of synthetic skin, the same snap of knot cinched flat. Her breath found a rhythm, needle in, quarter turn, pull law, tie, tap. The room stayed quiet except for the suction's soft draw and the sound of thread sliding. Thomas Kincaid watched her from the doorway long enough to see the pattern. People said he owned Desert Star Medical Center the way a storm owns a sky. His white coat was immaculate. His shoes made no sound on tile. He stepped in and caught the light in his glasses. "Here early for a first year," he said. The tone was not praise, hoping repetition compensates for talent. Maya tied the knot she had started, trimmed it, and only then looked up. "I like to be ready, Dr. Kincaid." His gaze lowered to her hands. "Interrupted mattress is not our standard closure. You study videos. Different situations, different tools." He picked up a clipboard he did not need and flipped an empty page. The corner of her scrub sleeve had ridden back. Ink showed for a heartbeat, a staff twined with a serpent. His mouth barely moved. "Visible tattoos read poorly in donor photos," he said. She rolled the sleeve down without comment. He gestured at the practice incision. She stepped aside. He leaned in, examined the spacing, the tension, the way each suture lay. He said nothing for a long second. "Report to OPREP at 7. You will observe," he said. "No heroics." He left as if the door opened for him. The locker room was already warming caffeine and detergent and the faint chemical trace of betadine. A cluster of residents worked the combination dials and traded the same jokes that soften a razor morning. Jason Cole used the locker door like a stage. He was a third year who wore his surname like a brand sharp and glossy. Well, still practicing basics," he said, leaning back until the bench creaked. "Some of us graduated to actual patients." Maya checked the weight of her pockets. Penlight, small notebook, blue tape, trauma shears. She counted without looking at them. She did not smile. "Thorough," Jason said. "You know what they call thorough in CT, slow. Slow is dead." Aaron Blake slid into view, first-year quiet eyes. He was about to say something, then thought better of it. He sniffed the air, caught the betadine clinging to Maya's skin, and glanced down at the paracord bracelet, as if it explained something he could not name. "Good morning," Maya said. She stepped around Jason, who yielded half a step, surprised at himself, and then laughed to patch it over. The scrub room felt different than the lab. Steam rolled in little curls. Metal sang when you set it down too hard. Senior nurse Eileen Shaw ran inventory with 3 lines of pencil marks and the casual precision of someone who had counted in places where counting mattered. Her hair was pulled tight and practical. She watched Maya take her position at the sink and begin again, fingertips to palm, palm to wrist, wrist to forearm. Forearm, each motion mapped. "You can drop the ma'am," Eileen said in a voice that carried without volume. "This isn't the Air Force." Maya did not look up. "It isn't. Paracord looks better with dirt on it." "Gift shop," Maya said. "Sure," Eileen said, and did not press. She dried her hands with a sterile towel. 3rd floor. Office with the plant that refuses to die. Doors open. They stood for a moment, shoulder to shoulder, water running the clock, measuring something deeper than time. Then the scrub door swung and Eileen slipped away. In pre-op, the world narrowed to stainless blue drapes and cold air. The monitor at the foot of the bed traced a careful green line. Leaks from the climate system gave the room a chilled edge that bit through scrubs. Maya stood at the back of the bay and watched an older man's chest rise and fall under a blanket. A valve case routine on the whiteboard. She followed the lead placement on the EKG the way lead 2 sat on the right shoulder, the tracing just faintly taller in the inferior leads than she expected. Dr. Vic Patel Anesthesia rolled in with a cart and a mug that read, "No bad decisions before propofol." He nodded without looking up. "Morning." "Morning," Maya said. She kept her eyes on the screen. A notch in the ST segment caught the light for a heartbeat and then blended into normal. She filed the shape away in the same place she kept the steps of tying a surgeon's knot with gloves on. Walking to OR2 felt like sinking into a ritual. The hum deepened. A nurse keyed the door and it sighed open. Metal trays were laid out like a piano keyboard, each instrument in its place. Kincaid stood on the far side of the table, cap on mask, around his neck. Jason had already scrubbed in and bounced on the balls of his feet as if energy itself could make steady hands. "Position there, Dr. Reyes," Kincaid said, pointing to a square of floor that kept her clear of the field but left her a clean sight line to the monitor. "You observe. You speak only when spoken to." "Yes, sir," she said. She heard her voice and did not love it. She let it sit. Jason looked at her around the tower of the retractor. He grinned like a boy who had chosen the right line in a fast food drive-thru and wanted you to see it. "Try not to blink, first year." "Scalpel," Kincaid said, and the nurse placed it in Jason's hand so cleanly that it looked like a cut in the film. The first incision was smooth. The smell of cautery bloomed sweet and metallic. A light moved to follow the blade. Maya's gaze tugged back to the EKG. The green line marched on. Lead 2 looked plain. Lead 3 had a quiet lift you could miss. AVF held the hint a half beat longer. She marked it. She did not speak. The paracord at her wrist felt heavier than thread has any right to be. She rolled it once and let her hand go still. In the glass of the cabinet across from her, she could see her posture the way other people did. Too straight for a resident still finding a spine. Too still for someone who had never been here before. The reflection did not give her secrets away. It only told her she was there. Kincaid guided Jason through the next move with language so spare it was almost music. Saw, angle shallow, hold your breath, good. Eileen stepped in quietly, eyes scanning the Mayo stand. She did not look at Maya, but she was aware of her, the way a person is aware of a door in a room that is not theirs. The air was cold enough to sting. A helicopter somewhere outside lifted off, and the rotor thumped through the roof like a giant hand tapping. 3 beats, 4, then fading. Maya felt her throat go tight and let the feeling pass through her. "Retractor," Jason said, voice a little higher. The rib spreader opened with a deep plastic click. He said it gently. Patel watched the numbers and read them like a bedtime story. Pressure 142/88, heart rate 76, oxygen sat 99. Kincaid did not look at the screen. He looked at the field. He had earned that. He had earned almost everything. He reached without moving his head, and an instrument arrived where his hand was going to be. "Dr. Reyes," he said, still not looking at her. "No heroics." Her eyes tracked the green line. The next beat arrived a fraction late. It was the sort of tardiness only a person who had waited in other rooms would notice. A nurse shifted and a clamp ticked against the tray. The smell of betadine sharpened warm under the cooling system. She could taste metal. "Yes, sir," Maya said. The paracord bracelet pressed a circle into her skin. The monitor made a tone that was not an alarm. It was a reminder. The line stepped up and then settled. She placed the shape on an internal shelf with 12 identical stitches and a metronome she could not shut off. Outside, the faint thrum of rotors drifted and then slipped away. Inside, the EKG drew a steady rhythm and hit a single stray note. The sternum opened with a saw note that ran up the spine. Cautery smoke sweetened the cold air. Jason held his breath the way Kincaid had told him and eased the blade free. The retractor arrived at his hand. Plastic teeth set against bone. The ratchet clicked and the chest widened in small steps. Light flooded the field. Maya kept her eyes on the monitor. Lead 2 looked steady. Lead 3 showed a lift that did not belong. AVF hummed in her ear. She rolled the paracord bracelet with her thumb and let it rest. "Vitals are stable," Dr. Patel said. "Pressure 140/90, heart rate 76, saturation 99. "Proceed," Kincaid said. Jason placed the next instrument as if setting a glass on a high shelf. He smiled under the mask and his eyes searched for Kincaid. He wanted a nod. Kincaid gave him silence and a small tilt of his chin that felt like a medal. Maya spoke low. "There is subtle elevation in the inferior leads. We should have internal paddles ready, also antiarrhythmics at hand." Kincaid did not look at her. "We proceed as planned." The next minute was all gloved hands and soft commands. The rib spreader opened another notch. Suction sang and cleared the red sheen. Maya watched the green line step along one beat, laid another in time. The notch in the ST segment rose again. Her throat tightened. She made herself breathe. "Retractor," Jason said. His voice had a thin edge. The monitor went from music to siren. The green line lost its shape and became a handful of wire. The alarm came in a single long tone that swallowed the room. "Ventricular fibrillation," Eileen said. Her voice was clean and flat, no room for panic. Jason froze. His hands hovered above the open chest. The light made his gloves look too white. He leaned back a half-inch, almost imperceptible. External paddles, Kincaid said. Chest is open, Maya said. She was already moving. Internal cardioversion, 10 joules. There was a pause that was not long in time, only long in choice. Kincaid shifted one step. Do it. Eileen's hands made the paddles appear as if the table had grown them. Maya positioned them on either side of the heart that trembled instead of pumping. Her fingers found the angle by memory, not thought. Clear, she said. The shock pushed a ripple through the muscle. The line stayed chaotic. 20 joules, she said. Amiodarone 150 IV push. Patel drew up the medication. The pedal clicked. Ready. Clear. The second shock rolled through. The line twisted, hesitated, then caught a single beat with shape. Another beat followed. The alarm stepped down into beeps that sounded like language again. Sinus rhythm returning, Patel said. Pressure dropping, then rising. 85, 98/60, heart rate 78. Air returned to the room. Maya let herself see the field. The calcified ring around the valve looked thicker than the imaging had promised. It was a barnacle crust on a soft hull. The annulus is more involved, she said. We need aggressive debridement before placing the replacement. Jason looked at Kincaid. Kincaid looked at the field. He could see what she saw. He did not answer her with words. He did not need to. Maya took the small curette like a pen and began to pare away stone from tissue. Bits of white lifted under the edge and clinked into the suction. The heartbeat under her hand, steady now, a tireless animal. The room adjusted itself around her. Instruments arrived when she reached. Eileen tracked her needs with half a glance. Jason stood back a notch and watched as if she had spoken a language he did not expect to understand. Ring ready, she said, after minutes that felt like the right length. She checked the seat with a touch that was more touch than sight. Valve. The replacement sat in the forceps like a small metal crown. She set it true and asked for proline. The needle curved and bit. She placed the first stitch, then the second. She did not need to count. The rhythm counted for her. 12 stitches, equal distance, equal depth, equal tension. The suture sang against the instrument with each pull. The light made the thread gleam like a line on water in late sun. Kincaid leaned in. He watched the way each knot lay flat. He checked the seal with saline and saw no bubbles where bubbles should not be. He tapped the valve and it opened and closed with a neat clap. No regurgitation, he said. It sounded like a verdict. Maya closed layers with speed that held care inside it. The pericardium came together in a smooth line. Muscle met muscle, fascia to fascia, skin to skin. The needle holder kissed the needle in the same place each time, and the sound was a quiet bell. Patel called out stable numbers. The beep settled into a pattern that could almost disappear if you let your mind drift. No one let it drift. Kincaid straightened and stripped his gloves. He did not clear his throat. He did not smile. He glanced once at Maya. Where did you learn that sequence? He asked quietly. Practice, she said. She dropped her gloves and stepped back. She scrubbed her hands in the sink outside and turned the water cooler than she needed. Steam rose anyway. Eileen joined her and said nothing for a long beat. You saved him, Eileen said. I did what the field required, Maya said. That was not a field, Eileen said. That was a plan. Maya dried her hands and touched the paracord bracelet without looking at it. She did not correct Eileen. She did not thank her. She let the water run another moment and then shut it off. The residence lounge was a coffee and vinyl room. Chairs sighed when bodies sank into them. Jason sat on the arm of a couch with a paper cup that had gone cold. He talked in a voice a half-step quieter than his usual. Natalie Cho leaned forward with her elbows on her knees and her eyes clear. She did not hesitate, Natalie said. Not once. Movies teach speed, someone said. Speed and perfect do not live in the same house, Natalie said. Aaron stood by the door and ran his thumb along a crease in his notebook. He had seen Maya's hands. He kept seeing them. 12 stitches laid down as if the line had been drawn first. Jason cleared his throat. She called the rhythm before the alarm. I did not see it. I do not like that I did not see it. Then go read, someone said. Jokes are how people keep from drowning. The laugh was not unkind. Jason did not laugh. On the 5th floor, Kincaid sat with Eileen in a small office that smelled like pencil shavings and the ghost of cigars from a different century. He tapped a photograph on the wall that showed the hospital in black and white. It had a different name then. Dust hung in the light like thread. You watched her scrub, he said. I did, Eileen said. And field habit. Elbow angle, stroke count. The bracelet is not from a gift shop. Kincaid lifted an eyebrow. You sound sure. I'm not guessing, Eileen said. Kincaid set his glasses down and polished them with the edge of his sleeve. Keep an eye, he said. I want understanding, not gossip. Eileen stood. You already have both. The overhead speaker crackled. The voice came out flat and too loud. Trauma alert. Level 1. Highway collision with military vehicles. Multiple critical. Estimated arrival 8 minutes. All available surgical staff to the emergency department. The hospital inhaled. Carts moved before feet did. Eileen was already in the doorway. Kincaid stood, put his glasses on, and walked without hurry that still looked like urgency. In the emergency department door slapped open and shut. Nurses pulled curtains and unfolded trays that had been folded 1,000 times. Monitors woke and scrolled blue and green and red. The air smelled like bleach and old coffee and the rubber of wheels. Maya trotted down the stairs because the elevator felt slow. She slipped into a gown and tied it with one tug. She checked a chest tube kit by touch. Kincaid strode in at an angle that parted the movement. His voice took the room to a lower frequency. Cole Bay 1. Cho Bay 2. Patel with anesthesia in 3 and 4. Reyes Bay 5. You will observe. Stay clear unless the attending tells you otherwise. Maya looked at the open bay. A bed weighted with its paper sheet blue as a pool. The paracord bracelet cooled on her skin. The radio on the wall spat numbers and street names she knew from maps. A helicopter thumped somewhere above the roof. The sound came down through steel beams and made the floor taste like metal. She set one hand on the foot of the empty bed. The other hand went to the monitor, quiet for now, a dark square that would soon be a landscape. The pager at her waist clicked. The doors at the end of the hall began to open. Sirens slid into the bay doors and became breath and voices. Diesel burnt rubber hot metal. Wheels hit tile and shivered. Nurses stepped into motion like a drill they had learned in their bones. Curtains snapped on tracks. Monitors woke. Greg Morales came in at a run with the first gurney. He had smoke on his face shield and a tear in one glove. He saw Maya and stopped as if a hand had hit his chest. The gurney bumped his thigh. Dr. Reyes, he said. Then he swallowed. His eyes cleared. Major. Maya set her hands on the rail and pushed the gurney into Bay 5. Report. He blinked hard reset, then spoke fast. Sergeant 23, penetrating chest wound, left side, short of breath, fire on scene, possible secondary blast. Dr. Leah Kim slid in beside them and cut the blanket. The sergeant's breath came high and fast. A blue-gray edge crept into his lips. Maya pressed the diaphragm to chest and listened. Hollow right, quiet left. She shifted the bell. The trachea pulled right in a way that made the skin of her neck tight in sympathy. Respiratory rate 28. Decreased left breath sounds. Tracheal deviation, she said. Tension pneumothorax. A nurse hesitated with a chest tube tray in her hands. Attending authorization for invasive procedure. 3 minutes, Maya said. She looked at Leah Kim, not the nurse. Needle decompression. 5th intercostal midaxillary. Then tube. Leah held her eyes for a second. She nodded once. Do it. Eileen was at Maya's elbow with the tray already open. Betadine painted the ribs in a wide brown square. The sergeant's eyes fluttered. Maya found the space with 2 fingers, felt the notch, made the small cut, walked the blunt tip in. The catheter slid, and the room exhaled with the hiss of trapped air, leaving a place it did not belong. The color at his mouth warmed. The pulse under her glove grew. Tube, Maya said. She widened the tract with a Kelly felt the give, then fed the tube along her fingers into the pleural space. More air. A run of blood-tinged fluid. She secured the line with a quick stitch and a strip of tape. The monitor's blue numbers climbed. 91, 94. Chest x-ray to confirm, Maya said. Leah was already calling it. Greg's shoulder sagged like someone had taken a bag off his back. He looked at her through the shield again. Kandahar, he said, voice rough from smoke and memory. You taught me that in a tent with a dirt floor. You were the one who said, find the space with your hand, not your eyes. Maya checked the tube one more time. I am a first-year resident, she said. It was a sentence built to close a door. Greg nodded. He was not convinced. He pushed away to meet the next gurney. A shout went up from Bay 3, code blue. Maya turned. Leah looked at her in the same breath. Go, Leah said. Bay 3 had a man in his 30s with a pale triangle of skin above dried soot. The monitors were ugly. Blood pressure fell while the heart tried to run from itself. Neck veins lifted. The heart sounds came muffled. The numbers had the shape of a story Maya already knew. Pericardial tamponade, she said. Dr. Henry Morse stood at the foot of the bed with a kit half open and a look on his face that said he had seen this on slides. He was capable and careful, and today careful was a synonym for slow. I can do it, Maya said. She did not raise her voice. She set her hands on the drape in a way that made the statement complete. Morse looked at Leah. Leah nodded. Proceed. Maya pulled the subxiphoid skin up with 2 fingers and slid the needle in at an angle that aimed toward the left shoulder. The plastic syringe filled with nothing. She adjusted a degree. Touched the pericardium, felt a resistance that was both strength and fragility. The tip slid through. Dark blood rose. She drew 60 milliliters and the monitor climbed out of a hole it had not chosen to fall into. The muffled heart grew louder under the stethoscope. Leave the catheter, Leah said. She taped it down. We go upstairs when transport is safe. Kincaid appeared at the curtain. He had not run, but he had not wasted time. His eyes took in the catheter, the wash of numbers on the screen. He looked at Maya. He had questions that could wait. A new gurney hit the threshold hard. The frame rattled, and one of the paramedics cursed under his breath. They pushed into Bay 4 because it was empty and the monitors there could be reached without a shuffle. The patient was older than the others, haircut to regulation gray. His skin had the yellow cast of a man who lived outdoors. The face made Maya's stomach drop and lock. He was awake enough to track the lights. When he saw her, he smiled with one side of his mouth. He looked smaller on the bed than he had in a camp chair in another place. Major Reyes, he said. It was a rasp that made the vowels short. Best combat surgeon I ever saw. Heads turned without meaning to. The room went quieter in a way that had nothing to do with the alarms. Colonel Ortega, she said. She set a hand on the bed to keep it from rolling while a nurse tried to break it. You are at Desert Star Medical. Wanted to die in Texas, he said. Then he winced and coughed a dry cough. Blood pressure dipped. He was bleeding inside. The left side of his chest rose less than the right. There were old scars along his ribs and one round puckered mark that did not match the others. Leah was at the monitor and saw the same math. He is not stable for transport. He will not survive the ride, Maya said. She moved to the far side of the bed to see the left chest more clearly. He needs a left anterolateral thoracotomy here. Kincaid had come to the opening of the bay. He met Ortega's eyes and read the history there. He read Maya's posture and the lines around her mouth. Ortega lifted his head an inch, grimaced, and then said it again because saying it mattered. Major, he said. Kandahar, 70 miles of bad road. You kept me alive when the lights were a string bulb. Maya did not look away from the chest. Betadine, she said. Rib spreader. O negative at the ready. Kincaid stepped in and spoke in a tone that wrote itself into the air. Dr. Reyes will proceed. There was no time to get every piece of sterile drape perfect. They did what they could do in a room made for other tasks. Eileen painted the skin. The iodine smell rose like a memory. Ortega's pressure fell again. The machine drew a long breath to prepare a warning. Maya set the blade on the 5th intercostal space and cut in a line that went where it needed to go. The skin parted with a smooth resistance. Fat gave under the edge and muscles separated. She kept the tip close to the rib to protect what lived below. A small vein ran and she clipped it almost without looking. The retractor came into her hand and she set it and opened a notch. Another. The sound was a deep tick plastic and bone. Blood welled. The suction cleared it. Warmth soaked through one of her gloves and she did not think about it. She thought about angles. She thought about the shimmering surface of the lung and the slow push of air. She thought about where the intercostal artery hides and how to find it without taking time to look like you were finding it. Clamp, she said. Eileen placed it into her palm like a coin into a slot. The bleeding slowed and then stopped. Old metal glinted inside the cavity. A shard no bigger than a fingernail sat against the wall of the left atrium. It was not new. It had been waiting. Ortega's eyelids flickered. We left it, he whispered. Maya angled the forceps and made contact. The piece moved a fraction. It threatened the tissue with the gentleness of a saw in warm wood. She adjusted her wrist a degree and prepared to lift with just enough force. The monitor stuttered. Ortega's pressure slipped again. The nurse at the head of the bed tightened the jaw thrust and watched the tube fog. Maya glanced at Kincaid. He did not say anything. He did not need to. She set her feet, felt the tile through the soles of her clogs, and pulled. The metal moved with a stubborn glide. The shard lifted and the atrial wall held. A whisper of relief moved through the bay like the smallest wind. Maya let the piece drop into a kidney basin. It ticked against steel and lay there dark and ordinary. Vascular clamp, she said. Bleeding pulsed from the intercostal space as the chest opened wider. She traced the line to its source and pinched with the tip of the clamp. The pulse slowed, then stopped. The field steadied. Ortega's pressure tried to climb, failed, and slid. The monitor lost its shape again. The rhythm broke into noise. The tone stretched long and thin. Ventricular fibrillation, Eileen said. Maya did not look up. My hand is already here. She slid her left palm around the heart and felt the weight, the silk of pericardium, the tremor that should have been a squeeze. She set her right hand to counter and began compressions. 1, 2, 3, 4. Count that lives in muscle. 1, 2, 3, 4. The heart pushed against her palm like a fish that did not want the net. Epinephrine. 1 milligram, Dr. Leah Kim said. The syringe clicked. The line did not care. Maya kept the rhythm. Her shoulder burned where it met the deltoid. She adjusted her stance and set her feet again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Time thickened and broke. A single beat found its shape, then another. The long tone fell into beeps. The monitor wrote a sentence that could be read. Dr. Patel called numbers with the focused calm of a pilot. Pressure rising. 85, 98/60. Heart rate 80. Maya kept her hand on the heart for 3 more compression cycles. She felt the muscle take its own work back. She withdrew slowly, cupped the chest with her palm to sense the tremor of recovery, and then lifted away. Warmth clung to her glove. Suture the intercostal, she said. Eileen passed the needle driver. The artery was small and slippery. Maya set a running stitch fine and even, tying at the angle that locks without strangling. She loosened the clamp and watched for leak. The line held, no bright red welling. She moved to the next repair without pause. Chest tube left, Leah said. A nurse had it ready. Maya tunneled the tube through and listened to the slide of air and fluid. The suction canister ticked like a slow clock as it filled. Kincaid stood where he could see the field and not be in it. He watched her hands. He watched the economy of motion. He watched the way the team moved around her as if they had rehearsed together for months instead of the minutes. Vital stabilizing, Patel said. Oxygen 98, pressure 104/65, sinus rhythm. Ortega opened his eyes to slits. He found the ceiling and then found Maya. He tried to smile and made it halfway. I always owed you a drink, he said. Looks like I owe you another. Noted, Maya said. She was already irrigating and looking for anything that would take the edge off later, anything that would be a surprise if left alone. She saw a small ooze along a branch and touched it with a fine tie. It stopped. She set gauze, counted, and said the number out loud. Eileen answered with the same number. Gauze in, gauze out. No one lost count. Close, Kincaid said. He made it a suggestion, not an order. Maya nodded. Parietal pleura intact, tube secured, proceeding with closure. She closed in layers. Muscle to muscle, fascia to fascia, skin to skin, 12 stitches along the most visible run, equal distance, equal bite, equal lay of knot. The suture line looked like something a draftsman had drawn. The chest rose and fell under her hands with a new steadiness. The room cooled as the rush drained from it, but everyone stayed tall until transport came. They moved Ortega to the elevator with quiet wheels. Nurses guided lines and watched the numbers travel with them. The doors closed without drama. At the sink, water stung where glove powder had rubbed the knuckles raw. Maya scrubbed until the smell of blood and iodine gave way to the hospital's clean. Eileen stood on her left and did not speak until the water ran clear. He would not have made the unit, Eileen said. He made it to the sink, Maya said. Eileen folded a towel into a small square and handed it over. That is what I said. Kincaid waited outside the scrub room. He had removed his cap and the line it left in his hair made him look more human than he liked. He did not glance at passers-by. His questions had narrowed to the ones that mattered. You recognized him, he said. Yes, Maya said. You expected that fragment, he said. I have seen him with it, she said. He held her eyes for a count that would have made a different person look away. She did not. He nodded once. Conference room 1900. The room had old wood and a clock that clicked. A car horn floated up from the street and then turned away. Dr. Priya Narang sat at the head and folded her hands loosely as if preparing to hear a case. Dr. Robert Hale had a legal pad with short blocks of handwriting and a habit of tapping the pen twice between sentences. Kincaid took a chair at the corner, not centered where he could see everyone, without being the center of them. Maya sat with her shoulders square. Her scrubs were clean and pulled from a warmer. The smell of detergent sat under the faint chemical trace of the day. Dr. Reyes, Narang said. Her voice was low and clear. Thank you for coming after your shift. I am available, Maya said. Narang opened a folder with a seal in the corner. She slipped a document free and turned it so the print faced Maya. There were stamps that still looked damp and signatures with the short lift of rank. The title carried the word declassified. It framed a chain of events in language that was careful and dry. We received this through the colonel's office, Narang said. You have been difficult to reach for some people who have been trying to reach you. Maya read the first page. The words were small and tidy. They described shortages and requisitions that did not match. They described a supply officer by name. They described findings. The lines stopped being lines and became a map she had run before. She turned the page. The second page named charges and outcomes. It named the 3 nights without blood that she had carried like a stone. It said the stone belonged to someone else. Her hand touched the paracord at her wrist. It did not move. It lay there cool and quiet. Major Reyes is formally exonerated of any wrongdoing in triage decisions made under duress. Hale read in a tone meant to keep sharp things smooth. The shortages were the result of theft and falsified records. The officer is in custody. Maya read to the end. She read again from the middle where the language moved from facts to conclusion. She set the paper down and folded her hands on the table. The skin of her throat felt tight. She swallowed and it eased. Narang's face changed a small degree. Relief and anger are cousins and both live there. I'm sorry this stayed with you uncorrected for as long as it did, she said. Maya breathed in and out. The room held the breath with her. She picked up the paper and slid it back across the table. Thank you, she said. Kincaid leaned forward with a second folder. This one held a page with bullet points and no seals. Your surgical record today reflects training and experience we do not associate with first-year trainees. Your application mentioned Army Medical Corps. It did not translate into the level of authority we saw. That is on us. We would like to place you at PGY-3 in cardiothoracic, effective immediately. Hale set the pen down so it would not tap. There is also an expectation that you will help us build a pathway for military-trained clinicians to move into civilian practice without losing what they have learned. Maya sat with that for account. I accept advanced placement, she said, if we agree to 3 conditions. Narang gestured with an open hand. State them. First, the program takes veterans at multiple entry points and respects prior competence. No reset to day 1 if day 1 is not where they are, Maya said. Narang nodded, agreed. Second, formal support for combat trauma, counseling peer groups. Supervisors trained to recognize when a skill hides a wound, Maya said. Agreed, Hale said. He made a note. Third, exchange runs both ways. Field techniques are taught here where they fit. Civilian protocols are taught there where they are needed. No one treats the other as folklore, Maya said. Kincaid did not hesitate. Done, he said. Narang slid a signature page across. Welcome to the senior track, Dr. Reyes. Maya signed. Her handwriting was square and neat. She set the pen down and it rolled to a stop against the edge of the folder. Kincaid did not stand yet. He watched her face. Where did you learn to decide at that speed, he said. It was not a challenge, it was a search. In places where slowness was another word for loss, Maya said. She was not telling a story. She was answering a question. Silence sat with them without being heavy. The clock ticked. Outside, a helicopter crossed the edge of the city and grew faint. The sound made the window tremble a hair. Maya felt the tremor and did not tighten. The bracelet stayed still. The door opened a fraction. Eileen stepped in, paused when she saw the arrangement of chairs, and lifted a phone. Apologies, she said to the room. She gave the phone to Kincaid. For Dr. Reyes. Kincaid checked the screen and set the phone in front of Maya without comment. A number with a 202 code glowed through a smear of fingerprints. Under it the words, Office of Health Affairs. The phone buzzed again and lit the glass in white. The phone buzzed again. Maya picked it up and pressed it to her ear. The line carried office air and a voice that measured words. Dr. Reyes, this is Health Affairs. We are forming a national pathway for military clinicians entering civilian systems. Colonel Ortega gave us your name. We would like to talk. Maya watched the second hand on the wall clock sweep. The smell of iodine still clung to her sleeves. I am available after shift, she said. Understood, the voice said. We will send materials. Thank you for what you did today. The line clicked. The room hummed. She set the phone down beside the signature folder and folded her hands until the shake left her fingers. 6 weeks later, the simulation lab was full before the lights were all the way on. Gowns rustled, plastic torsos lay open under lamps. The room smelled like soap and vinyl and a little like coffee that had waited. Maya moved through the stations with a marker tucked behind one ear. A helicopter dropped onto the roof, and the sound came through the ducts as a soft drum. No one flinched. Pericardiocentesis, she said at the front table. Ultrasound is gold when you have it. When you do not, landmarks are not a guess. She set her hand at the subxiphoid notch of the trainer and tilted the needle toward the left shoulder. The tip found the space. Dark fluid lifted into the barrel. She drained to the line, attached the catheter, and locked it with tape. Natalie Cho leaned on her palms and squinted at the angle. How often do you change course by a degree? Often, Maya said. You adjust by feel, pressure, and release. Jason Cole stood in the back beside a stack of trays. He watched her hands the way climbers watch a new route. He had a pen, but he had not written anything. He held a case folder under his arm and did not wave it around. Aaron Blake stood closest to the table and turned the suture in his fingers as if testing wire. He had started wearing his hair shorter. He took notes in small blocks and then boxed the important words. He looked up when Maya paused. You will make mistakes, Maya said. She let the statement sit. Practice so hard that the odds get narrow and know when to move. Eileen slid in with 2 paper cups and set one by the sink without ceremony. Your plant is still alive, she said to Maya, as if they were in the break room and not leading a room full of eyes. Stubborn thing, Maya said. She drank. The heat worked its way down. After the lab, Maya walked the corridor that ran along the windows. Phoenix shimmered under winter light. The desert looked pale and flat from this height, but the mountains pushed their shoulders up in the distance. Her office had a bulletin board that had grown photographs. Ortega in recovery with a paper cup and a crooked grin. A patient from the valve case on a park bench with grandchildren, 3 small masks held up for the camera. A group shot by the lab door where 7 faces in scrubs stood shoulder to shoulder, and 2 of those faces wore old bracelets on their wrists. Her email held the journal link. The subject line named the transition program and put Desert Star in the same sentence as outcomes. She read the abstract and saw numbers where often there was only gratitude. Her phone vibrated. Jason, complex case in 1 hour. Can you look before rounds? She replied, bring imaging to Sim office in 10. He arrived in 8. He set the scans on the light and did not fill the air with words. The calcification made a crown around the annulus. He tapped a finger on the inferior leads from the pre-op strip. I think there is a buried rhythm problem, he said. I do not want surprises when the sternum is open. Maya nodded and traced the tracing with a finger a 1/4 inch above paper. Prepare for internal. Have a miodarone ready, she said. Close the loop with anesthesia now. If it stays quiet, it stays quiet. If it does not, you move. He nodded once. He stood with his hands in his pockets for a second, then pulled one out and looked like he was going to say something that did not fit the room. He changed his mind. Thank you, he said instead. He left the scans and went. Kincaid came in without knocking at the hour he usually guarded for coffee. He carried a folder that did not belong to the hospital. It had a seal that chose clean blue and white over gold. He set it on her desk. They would like you to lead, he said. Director. National program, full budget, travel, staff. All the tools this place could not hand you fast enough. She opened the folder. The offer was short on poetry and long on structure. She read the scope and saw the faces from morning lab arranged beyond the walls. She heard the helicopter through the ductwork. The sound laid itself under her breath. You have a seat here if you stay, Kincaid said. He did not sit down. He looked at the wall of photographs and the pinholes in the cork from other photographs not yet printed. You also have reasons to go. Maya set the folder down and turned her chair to the window. The sun hit the lot and turned bumpers into hard white stripes. A nurse with a red backpack crossed the crosswalk and did not look up. Maya set her fingers on the paracord and sat still until her pulse slowed under her skin. I will take it, she said. I want to keep teaching here, lectures, consults. The program runs both ways. Kincaid nodded. That is what I expected, he said. We will write it clean. When he left, she opened the top drawer and took out a small linen pouch that samples used to live in. She slid the paracord bracelet off. The skin under it was pale where the rest of her wrist had colored. She turned the bracelet once in her palm and felt the knotted cord press into the lines of her hand. She laid it in the pouch and closed the drawstring. She did not push the drawer all the way. It stayed ajar the width of a finger. Eileen knocked and did not wait for a reply. "Board meeting in 10, she said. "Budget for the expansion." Maya picked up her folder. They walked together. The boardroom smelled like new carpet and old wood. Dr. Priya Narong ran the agenda without wasting the room. Slides showed graphs that pointed the direction they wanted. Hale asked for a sentence added to the third clause, and then nodded when Maya agreed. The vote took less time than the report. By late afternoon, the hospital settled into that false quiet that comes after a rush. Shadows fell across the lab floor in long stripes. The helicopter came and went, and the air moved around the window frames like a small animal testing a fence. In her office, Maya read through the national outline one more time. The words named regions and partner centers and the places where field protocols would fit without friction. Her phone lit with a text from Natalie. "Journal piece is clean, photo is not terrible." A second text came from Aaron. 2 new applicants, one Navy who did triage in places that never make the news. "We'll send their notes." Maya smiled and set the phone face down. She stood and looked at the photographs on the wall. She added a new one with a thumbtack and pressed the metal flat against cork so it would not snag. The pager at her waist vibrated. The sound is always the same. The words made the hall come alive. "Trauma alert, all available surgical staff." She took her coat from the hook and let it hang from 2 fingers for a heartbeat before she slid it on. The corridor ran straight and the floor shone. Nurses stepped into doorways. A gurney went past at a good speed. The elevator showed a number and then opened, and a transport team moved out like a small river. Eileen caught up beside her. They matched stride. "You good," Eileen said. "I am," Maya said. They turned into the emergency department. The lights made the air look colder than it felt. The curtain rings clicked on the rails. Monitors woke and scrolled. A rotor thumped above the roof and sent a soft ripple through the ceiling tiles. The sound found her and stayed. It was a rhythm now, not a hand on her throat. Maya pulled a gown from a stack and let it fall open. She tied the ties by feel. She snapped gloves on and the rubber bit her wrists. She checked a tray out of habit, and the instruments lay in their places like notes on a staff. Dr. Reyes, the attending at the far bay, called, "Here." She stepped to the line that kept the field clean and the rest of the world out. The lamp bloomed. The needle flashed in the light. The room made room. She set her hands where they belonged, and the work began. Thank you so much for listening to today's story. If this story resonated with you or made you reflect, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to share them in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next story.